Welcome back to Metal Massacre. We have a fun show for you guys today. As mentioned in the last episode, it has been a fun week. And we'll get to what we were talking about today, which is we mentioned that we were going to have a legend coming back and trying to reestablish themselves, which, you know, that's kind of the way that I was getting it from him. But we had Dry Kill Logic on the show, which, if we have younger viewers, it might be a little bit outside of their wheelhouse, but it was like right in the wheelhouse for people like your and my or anybody older's age, that early thousands new metal. But they're back and they're putting out some stuff that's without stepping on the interview, like we always say, we'll let him kind of explain and tell his experiences about how he's been able to get back. And they came back to playing a festival show.
Like giant. So they're coming back big. It's not just like they're playing mom and pop bars. Like they're playing big fucking shows. So we're going to get the lowdown from him and see just what it's like to come back after this time and put your foot back in it and see what it feels like. So I think that's a fun interview. I can't wait for you guys to hear it. So
Clint was he was such a enigmatic dude. I think that's how you use that word. He was very excitable, and like you could tell he was stoked not just to be on the show and to get to talk to anybody about doing this, but it was because like, oh, I'm so back. We're so back. Like, I'm excited to.
It's like that meme of the Hangover dudes are like, we're back. Yeah. That's how his energy was the whole time, and I loved it. It's infectious. Just side note, I love whenever we have interviews and it's like fun people, it's like regardless of the music, regardless of the prestige or whatever, they as people are actually like fun to talk to, and it makes things so much more relaxed and so much more natural, and you don't feel like you're doing the stiff upper lip pressured fucking presser thing. And it's just like, I don't know. Clint was definitely one of those guys where he was just laid back and totally in it, and I think that makes the interview just so much more fun for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, the kind of guy you'd have a beer with, definitely. Yeah, just like being able to like hang out at a barbecue and have a beer, and this guy would be like life of the party, fun fucking time. But I'm sure that translates on stage. But yeah, Dry Kill Logic. We only got the singer Clint, but he was, again, more than enough, like we've said. So it was in the best way possible. It was really fun conversation that leads us into something that we've done a lot on this show, but we haven't done in a little while because we've been getting newer artists and people that are kind of up and coming, or people that you might not have heard of, European, so on and so on. Every time that we used to, because it was our first dive into, this show, we were, hey, here's a grindcore band, like, see you next Tuesday. Let's discuss grindcore. Yeah. Here's this. Well, somehow we've had elements of it, but we haven't had like a true to form staple of the early thousands new metal, like your Korn, your Dry Kill Logic, your
fucking
Limp Bizkit. Go on.
Limp Bizkit won't answer the phone anymore, so I don't know.
Fucking Fred.
Yeah.
Okay. Like Wes Borland doesn't speak words, so I don't call him. But yeah, if I could get Freddie on again, we really just wanted to kind of do what we used to do and just be like, hey, you remember new metal? It was awesome. But I being a huge fan of new metal, like that was when it was hot when we were really being in our formidable years.
Yeah.
But for me, even all the way through high school until late high school, when I really started to get into bands that you and friends like Nolan and Josh and like a lot of our other friends, Rob, would listen to like Suicide Silence and Whitechapel and that vein of heaviness.
Yeah,
which was
you were
really
more into the new
about.
metal though. That was your thing, I remember.
And there's always been really heavy bands around, don't get me wrong. Like, I mean, I remember the first time I heard Slipknot, I was like, whoa, like this is extreme. But then people tell you about bands like Exodus and Exhorder and Bolt Thrower and like all these other bands from like the 80s and 90s, even Cannibal Corpse, who's Ventura. Like, there's been extreme metal around a lot longer than people may give it credit for. But I think new metal was specifically defining in a way that like hardcore had its day in like the 90s, punk had its day, but like this was something that was like not just loud for the sake of being loud, it was brutal. And if you weren't, like I said, like someone that was already like in your 20s and 30s or digging into record stores, you know, for someone that now where heavy music has almost basically been normalized, for lack of a better term, but you can find like any modern metalcore band or music on the radio where screaming is a big part of like what's happening, and like really down-tuned, heavy, nasty riff guitars, while they juxtaposition it with like lots of electronics and singing. Like that modern metalcore style is not lost on anybody nowadays. But back in the early thousands, when Screamo, everyone's like, is this that Screamo? Like
when Under Oath was way bigger and
Norma Jean
like that were like blowing up. I feel like in my time, I feel like nu metal was the next stage for punk.
Yeah. That's a very apt comparison.
It was like where punk and metal mixed, because they have the attitude of punk, they've got the message of punk, they even sometimes dress like it, but they were playing heavier music than punk. You know, it was like if metal came over to punk and was like, come on, bud, be one of us, and then he was like, all right, like that's what I felt like nu metal became. And you get your Limp Bizkits and you get your Mudvaynes and you get bands like that kind of like
System of a Down.
Yeah, for sure. And that was the thing, is nu metal was such a broad thing that you didn't really need to just sound like Limp Bizkit or sound like System of a Down. Like
100%.
It was very broad strokes kind of a genre. And it still really much is, but now you're seeing this trend with nu metal of like hearkening back to the era, you know, and like back to the original origins of nu metal and kind of getting that feeling and that sound again. And I think it's really exciting. It's exciting to see all these nu metal bands take up that mantle and do it in a new, fresh way. You know what I mean? But
100%, dude. I think that's one of those cases where nu metal walked so that modern metalcore could run, to be honest. Like, just to make that comparison one more time, like the use of electronics, the use of like a almost like carnival-like atmosphere where you have songs that don't sound anything like each other, or like a giant melding and mixing of styles, where, I mean, System did it almost best in that regard, where it was like, you might get a punk song, you might get something that's defining a genre like they did, but you also might get some old school riffs, you might get a just straightforward hard rock and roll song, like, but they're a very unique case where other bands who found their way in, I think a lot of bands like Dry Kill Logic as well, to bring them back up, it was the rap rock era, man. It was the Head PE. It was, we had mentioned Dropout Kings in one of our previous episodes, who are, again, rest in peace, but like it was a newer rendition of something that was very much like, obviously these guys who are all of the similar age, I think everyone in that band is and was in like their early mid 30s, same exact spot we were at, and felt the direct influence from having bands willing to do, like I said, like lots of crazy electronic breaks, and like no one sounds like Korn, no one sounds like System, no one sounds like Mudvayne.
I guess that's the element. I felt you mentioned Dropout Kings, it kind of makes me think like, there's hip hop in it too, you know. There's always like a DJ or something in a nu metal band. Like that's kind of a joke.
Slipknot.
Like when Metalocalypse did that whole episode with Murderface and Toki making a fucking record company, and they have the nu metal band, and they're all like ODing constantly and just being assholes. And there's like,
they got chains,
DJ dude. Like
big fat guy with the backwards hat. Dude, bro metal. It's like bro metal as well, if you want to call it that.
For sure. Yeah, but
it speaks to my soul.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's a fun, like, it's something to put on when you're just hanging out with your friends and you want to like up the energy. You know what I mean? Like, metal can sometimes be so intricate that it's hard to sit down and just listen to it with people, you know. Like, it's not always going to be a crack of beer music.
That's fair.
And not everyone in friend groups and circles can jive with like melodic death metal, you know what I mean? So nu metal is kind of that thing you can put on that everyone's kind of like, oh fuck yeah, I remember that, you know. It's a nice little time capsule. It really is. Makes you want to jump around. It's one of those genres that is always going to be grateful for where it came from. I don't think they're ever going to forget that. And it's always going to be like a time capsule of that period. Just like if disco came back, everyone would be like, well, the 70s are coming back. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's very true. And go ahead. I was just saying, it's always going to be like that early 2000s and what that era was. And that's
it defined an era.
Yeah.
I'm like I said, it was a huge, big builder into me liking heavy music. Being as someone who's always been inundated with it, but like my mom, you grow up, and a lot of people's love for music comes from their friends and like what's popular at that time, of course. But like, and that's a very youthful, young thing to have happen to you. But it's also like what you're subjected to. It's what's around you at all times. And so like, my dad, for example, who grew up in the 70s, like his formidable years were like the mid 70s. He couldn't give a fuck about disco or pop or house music or none of that shit. He doesn't like it. But that's because he was starting to get into Sabbath. He was starting to get into like right pre Metallica, like right before that. Right. So like it's something that, again, for people of a certain age, which we are at that pinnacle right now, where we are the middle-aged people that are like, we're not old, but we're not young. We're not in college, but we're not 40. Like
right in the middle.
The 30s are right where I think is like some of the most influential people in the world are in their 30s, honestly. And I think that's carried throughout time, not just now. I think that for as long as history's been around, and at least in the modern times where people didn't die at 44 years old and looking ancient, like the 30-year-old people, and even I guess probably then because they were like your elders even at 30, is who is really like the movers and the shakers of, we're not experts of our craft. We're not the end all be all. We're not the elders of everything, but we're also not 18 to 20-year-old kids figuring out who we are. And I only bring that up socially because, again, like when you look at where we are today and some of the biggest bands in the world that are really coming up and getting hot, that aren't just like on their first, like, yo, you guys are nuclear right off the top. It's people in their 30s, and you're seeing this time moves in circles and in waves. And I think, like I said, it's just to bring it all the way back around. I hear new metal in Spirit Box. I hear new metal in I mean, like, I don't want to say Gojira because they've been around for forever and a half, but like I hear elements of it in some of today's hottest bands and people that are lighting the world on fire. You hear these elements of new metal because I think we're right at that pinnacle peak of, this is where it's been 30 years. It's been past the late 90s, and these things are coming back around again to show themselves in a way that's very influential to a lot of people of our age group that are some of the most successful. And that's why
it is crazy to think about. Sorry to cut you off.
No, not at all.
But like when you're a teenager, you always think that like your 20s is your adulthood because that's when you can start drinking. So you're like, I want to be an adult, you know? And then you turn 21 and you're like, what am I doing with my life for like a decade? You know what I mean? You're like, I got so drunk the other night, I woke up with a daisy sticking out of my asshole. Like, what happened?
That's the fun of it.
And it is, don't get me wrong. But then as you go through your 20s, you start panicking a little bit, and you're like, okay, other people are making something of themselves. Like, you're watching YouTubers, you're looking at bands, you're going to the movies and seeing like 22-year-old actresses that have like the rest of their life ahead of them, but are making such big waves. And you get all intimidated, and you're like, you feel bad because you're like, well, I'm not doing anything that big. But it's funny because that's not the norm. No. You know, like, I mean, this might be an outdated reference and it might offend somebody, but like J.K. Rowling didn't even write Harry Potter till she was like 33.
So, like, and I guess that's exactly what I mean too. It's like you see all those memes that are like, I think Lewis Black, the comedian, he's got to be in his late 70s now, but like he didn't really pop until he was in his 50s.
Yeah, when he had gray hair is when he
20 pops. Years. Bert Kreischer, who's like, and him and Tom Segura are some of like the two hottest comedians around. Like Bert had like a travel show or something forever and a half through his 20s and was like famous and popular, but like now that he's standing on top of the world of comedy, however you think about him, I mean, like, I like the guy. I think he's a genuine soul. And like, I think Tom's new show is ridiculous. Have you watched Bad Thoughts?
No.
Okay. Maybe, I don't know if you'll like it, but like, it's gross, but like at the same time, it's, these guys are, it's ridiculous. There's no real way to describe it. It's disgusting. But at the same time, like, I thought it was fucking hilarious because, like, oh, good, someone's pushing the boundaries and making people pay attention.
Yeah.
Regardless of that, you look at those two guys, to your point, who are on top of the comedy world right now, even Joe Rogan. These guys are in their mid 40s to 50s. Like, it was a culmination of effort forever and a half. And like, as long as you're dedicated, I mean, you could start. It's never too late to start anything. Even if you don't anticipate being famous, if you're someone who's 57 right now, listen to this, and you've never played guitar, try it. Yeah, seriously, try it. If you wanted to, in 3 years, you could probably play some sick riffs and maybe make a song or two. And yeah, 3 years is almost 1,000 days. But so do you anticipate dying before 60?
I bet you can do it faster.
Yeah, you could probably do it faster. But like, even if you're 70 and you're listening to this, pick up a keyboard. Why not? Like, go paint, go draw, throw a ball around, be sore. Who cares? Like, that's what life's for, man. And like, I made a post on like my personal page. If anybody wants to follow me, you can try and find me. But good luck. I really just please follow our socials instead. But I made a post like literally yesterday just because I was sitting on my bed. I may or may not have hit a little joint, and I was just sitting there. And honestly, I was just sitting there petting my cat, and I was like, I live a cool life, man. Yeah. Like, I do cool things, and I'm having a lot of fun. And we were about to record that episode that we did that came out previously. And I was like, I didn't get all sentimental necessarily, but I did just get in my head in a positive way. I was like, dude, it is never too late to do anything you want to do. Yeah. And I've probably lived out about 8 of my 9 lives at this point through various actions of my own. I'm lucky to still be here, even at only 32. I'm pretty sure I'm 32, but like, I'm sure you didn't come here to the Metal Massacre for any sort of sage-like advice, but you're never too old to do something. Don't be afraid to start a band with your friends. Who cares if you're playing tribute music in your 60s? Yeah. If you're 18 or you're 17, 16, 15, I don't care. If you're listening to this and you're in high school, you have so much ahead of you. And like, that's a good thing to have. It's never the end of something. Never. In anytime something ends, I recently had my job that I was at for 8 years just go under because it couldn't hold up anymore after COVID and lots of just numbers and litigation and things like that. And I've had the craziest summer and some of the best times I've had in decades because I don't have a job technically right now. And like, I'm still making money. I have other stuff. Y'all don't worry about me. But like, at the same time, I was really bummed. Like I shed a few tears before I left on my last day because it's been my home that I've literally bled in. Yeah. But now I'm looking at it about like 3 weeks removed. I'm like, these 3 weeks have felt like 3 years in the best way. Like,
well, you've had so much more time to just like do what you want to do, and that's honestly good for you. I'm kind of happy this happened to you, to be honest. Like, I know that might sound fucked, but like, it's giving you an opportunity to shake things up because you were hitting your nose to the grindstone for 8 years, constantly on a schedule, constantly on a very rigorous routine. And that's fine. Don't get me wrong, especially if you're like trying to get swole or like do something.
And I enjoyed it.
That's great. But like, you can't live your life in that routine for the rest of your life.
That's true, man.
You gotta mix it up. You gotta have like different peaks and valleys of life, or else you're not gonna have an appreciation for it at the end. You're gonna be like, well, I did the same thing for 80 years. Cool. That's awesome. And I'm proud of that dedication, but like, you could have switched it up every once in a while and just experience what life is like in a different way, you know? And now you have this very interesting perspective and this opportunity where you have all this time, and it's like, I'm excited to see what you want to do with it.
Yeah, no, man, I'm stoked. And like,
take over the YouTube and start live streaming.
Yeah, fuck, who knows, man? I got some things lined up, but without getting too far into my own shit, we just wanted to pop in here, get sentimental with you guys, reminisce about some new metal, think about some of the music that honestly made our formidable years really important. Half the reason that we're probably doing a metal podcast is because in the time where you're the most impressionable, we got really into it, and new metal was that for me. And so it's very special. And bands like Dry Kill Logic are like that the fact that I got to talk to him, even as much as he was honestly stoked to talk to us and get back out there and share these experiences, I couldn't explain to him how crazy it was to be able to sit here years and years and years removed and be like, I'm getting to interview you, and I listened to you when I was a wee lad.
Well, and I think that's a commonality that you guys have right now, is that both of your lives are getting shaken up in such a drastic way. You know what I mean? So it's kind of cool to think about.
Well, without further ado, I'm going to rub some of this Big Dobbs beard balm on all of my tattoos.
Hell yeah.
And let you guys get into this interview. Look at it.
All right.
Are you aware of the health risks caused by tall boys?
Yeah, but it makes you feel like a cowboy.
Oh.
It does?
What the fuck?
Like, I'm a cowboy. I was like, oh, like,
I like
this
Space Ghost Coast to Coast binge you're getting on lately. It's accurate and I like it.
Hello, citizens.
We should make our own Space Ghost Coast to Coast show. That would be fun. Get a illustrator to help us with it and like make a stupid character. You could be like the fucking Zorak of the show.
Yes.
That'd be great.
Yes.
Go back to feeding the ducks while we wait. What's up, everybody? We started recording. We're feeding the fucking ducks right now. We got a fun show with you guys. Dry Kill Logic is here. Well, they're almost here. And we're just hanging out, man. Just goofing before this episode. It's been a minute. We've been kind of reassessing. We have that Mosh episode coming up here pretty soon. If it didn't already come out, I have no fucking clue what order things are doing right now. But a lot of cool stuff to end out season 4, and we're looking forward to see what we can keep bringing you guys moving forward. And we still got to keep doing that local stuff, Dusty. So we got to figure out what our next local episode is going to be too. A lot of stuff.
Yeah. What's the next logical move?
Yeah. So we'll see. If you guys have any recommendations locally, let us know. Oh, looks like we're in.
There we go. Stop.
Hey, how's it going?
What up? How are you guys?
Pretty good,
man.
Just some lo-fi waiting to see what's up. Thanks for joining.
Nice. No worries, man. Into the chill playlist.
Heck yeah. You got to start things off a little easy, let the people ease into it. But what's up? My name's Lucian. This is Dusty. We're Metal Massacre. We appreciate you just giving us your time and being open. Yeah.
Oh, dude, thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it. I was just listening to the Wednesday 13 interview.
Oh, no way. Nice.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
Dude, I've been diving into your stuff since this interview got announced. And
awesome.
I have a lot to say. I'm excited. This is going to be cool.
What does that mean?
I hope 51% of it is positive. So.
No, it's all positive. I immediately was just like this feels like music that I grew up on, but not in the cliche way of like, oh, it sounds clearly like this band. In the way of like, I felt like there were things about your music that felt like a lot of different bands. It wasn't just one thing. Like I got a little bit of Korn here and there, you know what I mean? And then like it got heavier and I was like, oh my God. And then even at one point I was like, this is kind of System of a Downy right here. Like there's a lot of different parallels I think you guys have played with in your discography. And I don't know, just listening to this new song too, it totally feels like you guys are like back with like way more of a punch. I don't know if that's fair to say.
No, I appreciate it, man. Thank you. Yeah, I don't know if we ever really know what's coming when we set out to write these songs. It's not intentional, like there's a riff or there's an idea, and then they just kind of take us where they lead. And we always say pretty quickly we'll know if it's a good idea or a bad idea if we all look around and we're like, yes, or we look around and we're like, oh Christ, that was awful. So we try to, just get to the right conclusion as quickly as possible. But I appreciate the kind words, man. Ultimately, at the end of the day, those that listen to it are the arbiters of, whether it's a good song or not.
So I'm curious, like, what constitutes it being a bad idea? At what point, when you have an idea, are you like, we're scrapping this? Is it like, do things not line up the way you think they should in that way, or is it just the whole feel of what is being accomplished is off, or what at what point do you think it turns into a bad idea?
I don't know I don't know if there's ever really a bad idea when you're writing a song, right? Like, you just might have a collection of ideas that don't work together. So, it's like, you could have a riff in your head and you're like, all right, I got the riff. Let me play you this riff. And you hear it a certain way. And then it's like, oh, that's amazing. Play this riff. And then the next riff isn't the riff you hear in your head, even though you don't hear a riff in your head. It's not headed in the direction that you think it's going. The direction could be valid and it could end up being awesome. It's just not where you hear it. So it's kind of like everything at that point becomes a little bit of theater of the mind.
Yeah.
Where it's like, okay. Just play it the way you hear it. And then, you listen and you're like, I don't know. Or you listen and you're like, holy shit, you nailed it. It's just kind of like everybody looks around the room and they're like, is it? Isn't it? But even if it's not, you just take that riff that didn't work with the first one and you just go, all right, put it here. Let's keep working on this first one. The second we finish this thing, we're starting on this one with the next song. And it's just about like how the song evolves. Start somewhere and it's got to end somewhere that everybody sees the vision of. And as long as like the end result is to get it right and not to be right, then you'll always end up with a good song.
I love that philosophy, man. I think that's pretty tried and true, because I'm constantly playing mouth karaoke guitar to a guitarist. Like, no, if it did the
up,
like, no, yeah, and it's. I feel like that's such to sound younger than I am. That's such a vibe. Like when you're jamming with somebody and it just feels right, and everyone kind of knows that's where it's supposed to go. You just know it's a great riff. And I hate saying good idea, bad idea, because sometimes it doesn't even feel like an idea. It kind of just feels like what happens,
Well, to your point, like good or bad is way too linear.
Yeah.
It's like, what do I have? I have a collection of awesome riffs, and some head in this direction and some head in that direction. And what am I going to do with it? All right, I'm going to separate them out. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to go in this direction here because this is where it's taken us. And we're going to go in this direction here because that's where it's taken us. And you just, again, I think you said it best, when you're writing with like-minded individuals and you all sort of share that same vision, it becomes kind of easy.
Yeah.
What works and what doesn't. It's only in the moments when you're kind of at odds or you're passionate. And again, like those are moments to have conversations too. Like, trust me, this is I'm the forest, and sometimes, I don't see it and they'll be right. And I'll be like, thank God you guys like saw this. I never would have seen this conclusion. I never would have seen a bridge like this, or a change like that, or a drum beat like this, or I never would have gone here. But holy shit, this is awesome. So again, it's just like, it's trust and jamming with people, and feeling good about it.
Well, luckily, I assume that you guys have a lot of trust together, because I mean, this lineup, regardless of hiatuses in time, and I mean, honestly, anything in the past, it's the same lineup you guys have had for a long time. And I think like we asked this question basically to a lot of folks when there's been around with the same lineup, but it's kind of like riding a bike, you'd hop back in, you don't forget it. And then you kind of realize that you are with trusted, like-minded individuals. As I guess it's safe to say then probably that all of you, we're able to hop back into the studio and you decided to be like, hey, we're scratching the itch. We got to get out there and do this. And we have ideas. It's probably pretty easy to meld them together and trust each other, I would imagine.
I think you nailed it in the sense that, even when we weren't, when the band went on hiatus, we still remained very good friends. We're very, very close. We see each other all the time. I don't think that was ever an issue and why the band kind of needed to conclude it when it did. And, we spent, about a decade just kind of hanging out and being friends and like whatever. And then all of a sudden one day we were like, like every time we get together, we're telling the same, stories.
Dude, we should start a band.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, what would it be like if we just like all dusted off, whatever amp is holding open a window somewhere, or like, the guitar that's tucked under keeping the fourth leg of the, the sofa up, you know what I mean? Like, and, we got together and again, we realized pretty quickly that we all really enjoy writing together. And to your point, there's a level of trust because there's no pretense, right? Like we're not here because our egos got us here, or because, we need that advance to pay that thing. Like, it's just dudes in a room having fun, seeing what happens.
Yeah.
Nothing could happen. We'll just go to dinner. It's like, it's all very lo-fi. There's not a lot of risk here, a lot of upside, no risk. So yeah, we just, we just enjoy it. To your point, if one of us is like, dude, I'm not feeling that, that lyric is repetitive. You use that phrasing all the time, or, think beyond this way. Try to, I at this stage, I very much value, I know they're all very smart, probably much smarter than I am. So I like to, I just like to listen. So if there's good ideas, I'm all about it. And they're the same way. So again,
that's awesome, man. It's really good to hear. Again, like, there's too many stories of people that like did fall apart for one reason or another. But like, now obviously it was just like, anybody that wants to do the research, and not to turn this into the Chris Farley Remember When show, because nobody likes that. It's more that, it's something that you guys have obviously been able to pull together, because the new music sounds, to just dive right into some of it, it's phenomenal. I've been a new metal fan my whole life. I grew up in the perfect era. We're both in our mid 30s. And so we grew up in that perfect era of having like you guys on our radio all the time when I was like in middle school, to be honest. We're not putting dates on shit.
No. It's totally fine. It's totally fine.
But like, again, it's not a rebranding. It's definitely something that, listening to it, you can see that there's like a more of a modern influence. And that's probably just because, hey, that's where we're at. It's been 20 fucking years. Like, what are you going to do? But the music, again, phenomenal. There's been a single out in 2020, and then you have the newest one out. And obviously the other one, all the older catalog is still getting lots of plays. I want to know a little bit, as I'm sure a lot of people have asked you on your press tour here, but Rockville, because you guys did that about like a week ago, not even as if we're recording this. So what was it like, for you guys? Because I was scanning, and really all I could grab was like some TikToks. So I was just like looking for footage of people filming shit. It looked like you guys were having a lot of fun. Like it genuinely looked like you guys wanted to get back on a stage and have a good time. So that's hats off, because it sounded good. But more than that, what was it like for you guys? Like, how did that feel? Was there nerves? You're playing on the same night as Korn, man. Like,
right. That's insane.
Yeah. I mean, look, I'm not going to lie. It was surreal. The whole thing was crazy. And I don't know if, again, there's like not a lot of intention. Like, we're not really setting out like we're gonna do all this stuff. But there was an opportunity where, our agent was approached, and, they were like, hey, it's, 20 years of, the album. And would the band be interested in playing if there were a slot on the festival? And it becomes one of those things where you're like, how do I say yes to that? Like, I haven't played in 20 years. And then immediately it's like, how do you say no to that? Like,
right.
And I think that becomes the conversation. And, we obviously were so honored and just humbled to even be in that conversation. So it felt like for a long time that was like, oh, that we got plenty of time on that. And then all of a sudden there was just no time on that. But thankfully, we had been like rehearsing, and, obviously, we're in the studio and we're rehearsing, we're practicing, but it moves so fast from being very far in the distance to being like a week from yesterday that you're like, holy shit, what's happening? But it was wonderful. The biggest stage we've ever been on, the biggest audience we've ever played in front of. And you could see that there were folks there that really knew the music, young, old. And it was, it's not something I thought we would ever have the opportunity to do. And I'm just so grateful that we did. And I'm excited, and it moves so fast now that it feels like it was 8 years ago. So now it's like, oh, I was 2017, right? So like life just moves so fast. But it was something that when we look back on the photos and the videos, we never, here, let me give you a piece of perspective to consider.
Sure. Please.
The last time we were on stage that somebody videotaped the band, you either had a digital standalone camera, a camcorder, or a huge broadcast over the shoulder camera like you were shooting a video.
Yeah.
YouTube hadn't been invented yet. So we had never seen ourselves live through that quality lens with that level of treatment.
Yeah.
Everything that's ever been online of us has been from like 2003, shot from the back of some godforsaken room on some godforsaken camera. So looking at it, we're like, we've never seen ourselves in high def. You know,
that's crazy.
It's so funny. The whole thing is a moment of reflection. It's like, whoa, wow.
Yeah, that's
crazy. Just to see it, you know. Again, it's just not something I thought maybe we would ever see. Maybe I just thought we'd always be locked in an era, but to see it now, I constantly am like, holy shit,
we're doing it, man.
Yeah, it's wild to see.
Time moves in waves, you know, like fashion repeats itself, history repeats itself. And I want to say very positively from these newer songs, it fits right in. It sounds exactly like the kind of stuff. And with love, I mean, I say that when like we have like the local college radio that plays a lot of like, they would fit right into that. And that's the places that like book these kind of festivals. Like you guys have done a great job of obviously staying uniquely you and doing your style. And it sounds like you guys, but it's it's got passion. It obviously has something underneath it. And you guys seem elated to do it. So
yeah. And it has a clear evolution, like you were saying, like not just in like how you write your songs, but like the feeling has evolved. It's more defined. You know what I'm saying? Like, especially this new single, like very, very definitive sound to me. I'm very curious to see what else is coming out. And I know there's probably a lot of people out there dying to know as well. We won't pick your brain if you can't talk about it, but I just know there are a lot of people waiting in the wings to see what you guys do next.
You know, I really appreciate it. And I appreciate the kind words. And, you know, I think that over time, right, you change in ways that, that you choose, right? You know, you are influenced by new music and you kind of grow as an artist and you want to say new things. And then, you know, you change in ways that you kind of can't control, right? Like I haven't sung in 20 years. So the depth of my growl isn't as strong. My higher register screams are more powerful and easier for me now, which may give me a different approach to singing. I can't do the things the way I used to. And again, maybe I will after a couple of shows and I break my voice in, but I can't do them now. So as I think about writing and I think stylistically, you kind of have to think about, you know, when I write in my head, I have to write it. I write it in the voice I think I have. And then when I sing it in the voice that I actually have. And I'm like, oh, well, we're not getting close to that note. So maybe we need to think a little bit more about the dynamics of, and again, it all just kind of forms it. But yeah, I think we'd be, you know, again, and I really appreciate that. I appreciate just the kindness. You know, we're trying to just write songs that feel like the same breadth and scope of things that we've written. And, you know, we've written things like, you know, Lost, and we've written things like Good Night. So we're open to the idea of, you know, standing in service of the song and whatever constitutes a good song. We're open to that. I'd love to do some piano. I'd love to write a 95-second hardcore song. Like we want to do everything.
That's awesome.
But again, it can't just be everything for the sake of everything.
Right.
It just needs to be hopefully a record and a collection of music that continues to be dynamic. If we're lucky, you know, everyone will be like, oh shit, that's pretty cool.
Well, I think that a lot of like, you guys have never been afraid to do that, for one of a better term. You've never been shy to do that. Like some of the older stuff has like more of just like a standard hard rock in your face, almost got some Southern bluesy to it here and there. And then you have stuff with DJ tables and scratching and all that kind of stuff way back in the early days. Like it's something that you guys have never obviously been shy to do. So it's not like I'm giving you advice. I'm just saying, like, I don't think that there's any way that you guys could do something that fans of yours aren't going to like. And I think that with the sound that you guys have, you're bringing forward, it'll gather in the newer generation, newer fans, newer everybody. Like, I think that if no matter what you do kind of thing, and it's one of those stuff that you're never going to pigeonhole yourself. And think you guys have pillared yourself up in a way that probably is really good for you coming up nowadays. So you just be who you want to be and write the music you guys want to write and not worry about it.
Yeah. And to that point, it's, as we talk about the things that the band did not necessarily have the benefit of, just social media and, direct connections with audiences and the ability to have conversations with like-minded individuals, just like you guys, that stuff was always behind a gate, back in the days where, you didn't have these abilities to leverage connections. And, for us now, to be able to do that and just to be able to kind of see the responses firsthand and just experience, what people think of the music in comments and in conversation and watching other people have conversations and discourse about the songs and the direction. It's fascinating to us to kind of witness that.
Yeah, that's got to be crazy, honestly. Like to have a go of it before any of that was even a notion and like it didn't matter, and then to come back where being a band might mean something different now, and it might like have a different set of here's what you do, here's what you don't do, here's how people get stuff recognized. You know what I'm saying? Like the thing that kills me is like TikTok and stuff like that. It's just like we have a TikTok. I put the stupidest shit up there I can find. I know we're not going to be like, we're making 1 million views. But
that usually seems to work better. We put the dumb shit up and then we put something polished that like we really love. And it's like,
5 fucking views. And I'm like, oh man, I spent like 10 minutes doing this whole thing. And but I've noticed that like bands nowadays, you really got to play that social media game. And I think that's just the craziest thing in the world to me, that like it's gone from back in the day where you would literally like, hey, let's try to get signed, let's play some shows, let's go on the road, let's sell merch, let's do all these. Those still matter, but it's just on such a different scale nowadays to where like that blows my mind.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. And I think I'll give you an analogy. I find it to be in some ways accurate. In many ways, it's not accurate. So I'll caveat it with, I don't think that it's a direct one-to-one by any means, because I think that my example is probably much harder than my example. But in some ways, it's like getting out of jail after 20 years. And you're like, hey, beep me later and hit me 911 and I'll go find a payphone and call you back. And you're like, no, I'll just FaceTime you.
You're
and
like,
like,
what's a FaceTime?
You got to beat me and then I'll call you from a payphone. And you'll catch me up over 20 years of technology so that I'm on the same page as you. That's kind of what it's like when you talk about how do you release music? What's the right technology to have on stage? What's the right way to think about social tone of voice and audience engagement, right? Like you start to think about it and you're like, I don't know. You don't just go hang out at the merch booth after the show. You're like, no, you do predetermined meet and greets. A predetermined meet and greets, you meet at the booth after the show. And it's like,
right.
So there's so many of these conversations that I'm fascinated by and just learning the new ways. And even though, we are to some extent an old dog, we learn pretty quickly. So it's just a fascinating exercise in getting caught up.
Like I said, from the clips and stuff that I've been able to pull just from online, like just doing some basic research, like not only does it look like you guys are having fun, like I said, I mean, it doesn't seem like you skip much of a beat at all. I will say that 100%, because again, where you have, like you're talking about, like what is appropriate for stage gear nowadays, a lot of people are running tracks. A lot of people are all digital. A lot of people kind of blend both, or they instead of having to have a keys player, it's like, oh no, the laptop, just hit that and go and just don't fuck up. Has there been anything that you guys have had to, especially when it comes to playing like a show of that caliber, did you have to reassess anything? Was there something that was like, oh shit, we don't just get to plug in my Mesa and just go? Like,
well, to that
hopefully
point,
not too much.
No, I mean, it wasn't, none of it was bad. None of it was like, oh, this is a burden or this is something awful or there's some learning curve that is just completely unattainable. I think for us, it became something like, okay, well, the nature, to your example, the nature of guitar amplifiers, it is no longer necessarily about, a rack of tube amps and a wall of cabinets as much as it is about a neural and, you know, the right patches and the right sound so that when you perform, your sound is seamless, right? It's about the idea of affordable stage visuals and how do you approach lighting cues and how do you approach evolving from the days of fabric scrims and backdrops to the idea of motion lighting and foldable LED screens and running your own projections. So seeing the way bands have really been able to take their own creative in-house and build these experiences for their audiences, to me is like fascinating. I am so into watching the new generation of bands, whether you're a new artist or a legacy artist that's performing in the, like whoever you are, it doesn't matter who it is. I am just fascinated, whether I'm watching Machine Head or I am watching Knocked Loose, I am like mesmerized. But I also really appreciate the idea that there's a rigor and a diligence that needs to go into that. Like we get on a stage, man, you know, throw down 4 and let's fucking go. And you're going to get whatever adrenaline boost we're feeling that day, which means songs could be 75 BPM too fast, 12 BPM too slow. You could get fucked up notes because energy is the message, not performance. But when you watch these new bands and they've got their performances so dialed in that visually it's consistent with their video content, with their social, you know, conversation, like it's so dialed in. It's so impressive.
Yeah.
I watch all of these bands and I'm like, man, look how fucking cool you guys are. And I'm like, I don't even know what the fuck we would do. Like,
who do you think right now is like killing it in that game? Like, who do you see band wise next to you and you're like, that guy right there is doing what he should be doing?
You know, and again, I'm coming off of Rockville, right? And so I was really fucking impressed. I was impressed with so many bands. I think maybe I was most impressed with Chris Motionless because the dude is wearing all black long sleeves, going absolutely batshit crazy, and it's like 98 fucking degrees with
right,
and humidity, and the guy is like just not skipping a beat. Same with the singer and Snot. Like watching those guys, they were just nonstop, and I was like, holy shit. And some of it is like iconic, that fucking Snot logo, 60 feet by 50 feet. You're like, holy shit, this is sick. And then you look at like that, you know, Marilyn Manson stage show was like, oh my God. But again, like I love the approach of Lorna Shore. I love the approach of Knocked. I love the approach of Kubla Khan. I just think that the band and the singer interplay and the staging and the lighting, it's just fucking awesome. You know, and then there's stuff, right? Like I'm a huge Machine Head fan. I'm a huge Slipknot fan. And those are just iconic shows.
Oh yeah,
those are top of the line
in Omaha.
Yeah, you know, those are like Metallica shows at this stage.
It's a whole thing.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. Like when you're looking at that level, it's like, I mean, you know, $300 a ticket. This is going to be just the sickest thing you've ever seen.
Right.
But there's something about those 3,000 cap rooms where they're just doing it with like light bars and fucking rotators and like screens that it's like, wow, this is modern day Pink Floyd lighting shit. And that's where I'm always just kind of like, because, you know, the bands are like newer and their audience is crazy. So it's just, I'm like, wow, this is so sick. So yeah. I just rattled off a bunch. I don't know if you guys agree, but
I do.
I really do. I'm a huge fan of when a band can craft an experience. And honestly, Dustin, it's funny this gets brought up because this is a continuous theme in our show is talking to bands about how they craft that all-encompassing experience where some bands will go out and make art that accompanies their music, or some bands will have someone collaborate with them on something like that, or you'll have a band whose stage show is completely different and it is a true show where you almost feel like that sense of spectacle, like you're at the circus, or like you're a kid in a candy shop, or like a drunk dude on a pirate ship. Like it's that feeling where it's bigger than life and you feel like you're a part of something bigger than yourself. And I remember in Dusty, we went and saw Slipknot here at our local stadium in Omaha, and they're, you know, not that far away from us. So it was one of those big like intensity, energy moments. There were people getting out of the stands and dancing in the aisles and shit. It's pretty wild. And I remember we were talking about this at that show, and I was like, this is what I love. I love when a band can craft a whole experience out of it. And it becomes more than just a concert. You know, you're always going to remember that night. And I think we're seeing a lot more bands nowadays craft those experiences and really care about like the message they're bringing out. One that comes up to me, which I worked one of their shows back in the day, and I was so impressed, was Ice Nine Kills. Have you heard of them?
Yeah. They're another great band.
Everything they do, it's just so much forethought in it. And like from the marketing they do to the actual stage show that they do, it's all chef's kiss, man. I love it.
100%. Like that level of consistent creative across all their channels and keeping it just so, you know, high key and just professional. And you're just constantly like, it's not just good production, but it's salient. It makes it sticks. It makes you remember it. And you're like, God damn, remember that thing? And it is so rare in today's world in anything that you remember and talk about something that like when a group or a brand or whoever does it, it's like that alone should be recognized and rewarded because it's nearly impossible to be consistent.
Yeah.
And, you know, to your point, like, we've never necessarily been a band that's had the thing or, you know, that much production or, you know, was that well thought out. I think now, you know, we look at it and we're like, I think the best thing that we could do right now is continue to stand in service of these songs and play these songs to the best of our ability. So when those that have been listening for so long are like, I finally saw you guys after 20 years. Holy shit, you sounded amazing.
Yeah.
That's of the like payoff. Not
that's the experience.
The fucking lights that you guys had.
Right.
You know, like there's more evolved bands that have already reestablished and already have that credibility. For us, it's like allow us to reintroduce ourselves. Let's make sure that you remember these songs in this moment the same way you listen to them every day for the last 20 years. You've had a lot of time to sit with them. So let's make sure that they're not any worse than you remember them because we've again, you know, you've memorized them now.
Yeah.
It's been a long time. So, you know, that's where I think we're really focused on like, let's just be like the best band we can be musically, performance wise. And as we get bigger and grow and we need more things, you know, we'll figure it out as we get there.
I love this, dude. This is so awesome. And honestly, like big lights are fine. You know, that's cool. And those do help craft an experience, but oftentimes the best experiences are just the ones where you're having that game of catch with energy with the audience, you know, and it's reverberating off of each other and you both kind of just build that experience together. And honestly, those are my favorite is when you go see a band and you just feel that they're having a good time and they can throw that energy out to you, but be it like vocalist banter or just like the music itself, like that makes to me the perfect show. I love that combination.
No, you're right. And you know, and again, in a world of firsts, every headline show we played up until the ones we're about to play, you know, we've always kind of been like a new band. We're hey, we're out here touring on our second record. I hope you like it. You know, we don't even have a lot of songs to play in a set. I hope you enjoy it. We don't know. And now it's like you're coming back 20 years later where people have sat with this music for, you know, years. And it's like, they know it and better maybe than we do. And it's like, well, we've never really played for an audience like that before. We just haven't experienced that. So that part's also exciting. Like, you know, I'm going to be looking for people that know the words to these songs.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Yeah.
Your turn. But it's so, again, like we're just really grateful because there's a million things for people to do other than listen to Dry Kill Logic. So the fact that we're commanding any time in anyone's schedule, I just couldn't say thank you enough for that. So we'll try to play a good show and, and do a good job.
Oh, I think I believe wholeheartedly in you guys. And I mean that 100%, because again, even just from one clip, you're out there having fun and you're getting to play your hometown, basically, not quite, but like home state. You're in Brooklyn coming up in like not too long from now as well. By the time this releases, I think it'll be like that week. which is, again, like you were saying, you got some shows coming up. That's got to be very exciting to get a hometown sort of, that, like I said, that feel where there's going to be some old heads at that show. That'll be the pass the bike around show. Like, people will know your shit. And again, I think that a lot of bands, like whether you're a touring tribute band, I think that's something that people run into. Probably it might be similar to that, where you're like, fuck these people. If we're an AC/DC tribute band and we fuck anything up, it's not just the musicians with their folded arms in the back of the room that are watching you. It is everybody knows that, man. Like, so there's some pressure there, but I think that it's nothing that you guys should feel pressure about because it sounds killer. And hey, man, riding a bike, like we said, I just think that it's going to continue to evolve. I mean, as long as you're putting the time in, you've got nowhere to go but grow. Like, you're starting anew. You got a couple of great singles. You got some big gigs. Shit, if you can find some clubs and theaters, roll around, get the reps in, break that voice back in, man. You guys I don't see any reason why it wouldn't be like the second coming, if you want to call it that. Sure.
All right, well, we'll see. From your lips to God's ears, my friend. I guess we'll see what happens.
Hell yeah. Cliff, is there anything you want our listeners to know before we let you go?
No, I mean, I think we covered it. New singles out, tour dates coming up. I just appreciate you guys for the opportunity, and I hope folks enjoyed the interview. I know I did. I hope you all did too.
Hey, well, maybe we can have you back on after, maybe whatever happens next, we can talk about it. That'd be cool.
Let's do it. I'm into it.
Hell yeah. We'll bother the PR people into it. They'll be like, but you already talked to him. But I want it back. I don't care.
Cliff was fun. Do it again.
He said he'd come back. He said it. He said it on air.
Yeah. We'll send him a clip and be like,
yeah. Send him the eyes emoji. Exactly.
Phil, thanks for being a part of Metal Massacre. Let's feed some ducks.